All right. So this is a fun one. So shout out to Paul Smith, longtime fan of the program. Paul Smith is a coach in Maryland, and he coaches at Howard Community College. And he sent me this video of his goalie. One of his goalies, Chris Peterson. So shout out to all you guys. Paul, I know this is a total surprise that I actually pulled this off and did it today, but this video clip of Chris is impressive. And so if you go check out the Howard Community College website, one of the things they talk about athletically is how they prepare athletes to move on to Division 1, Division 2, Division 3. And so an often like not talked about option for your athlete is like, let's say they go through high school and they are, academically they've had trouble. Let's say they just haven't really been able to make it. Uh, they just whatever, they're late to the game, and or they're late academically, or they're a slow, they're a late bloomer, that sort of thing, for whatever reasons. The idea here is that you have options. An option that I talked to a lot of my goalies about, especially my Canadian kids going down to the States, they're usually a year young compared to their American counterpart. Because in Canada, we start kids early, right? Whereas like in Boston or where I'm from, we kind of start kids a little bit late. But so you always have the conversation about reclassifying, right? And then so you either reclassify in high school, you might transfer from one high school to another, or that's usually the easiest, or you keep a kid back a grade. A lot of times when they're going into high school, if you can plan that far ahead, but then all their classmates go into grade 9 and they repeat grade 8, something like that. But then if high school goes through, they're not really getting the looks that they wanted, and things aren't going well. Well, you have junior college as an option, but then you also have community college as an option. And so there are eligibility requirements and stuff like that. But just an often not talked about option is going to a community college. And so there you go. Paul says HCC Lacrosse has 2 Canadian players this year. Yeah, I noticed. And Chris Peterson, right, is the goalie that we're about to show you. He's from Michigan, right? Did I get that right, Paul? He's from Michigan, and he's going to community college in Maryland. And so the idea, depending on where you play lacrosse, like I believe wholeheartedly that a goalie, of all the positions on the field in lacrosse, the the goalie has the best option, the best ability to basically uh, become really good from a non-hotbed, whether that's Michigan, whether it's Texas, whether it's New Mexico. If they got lacrosse in New Mexico now, I don't know. But the idea is that you can make things happen, and finding a community college where you can go and you can basically now take like college classes and show that, hey, you can focus. A lot of kids I know, uh, they they're they need to mentally, emotionally, physically mature, and then class, all of a sudden, college may feel really far away to them. And so the bridge between, hey, having good grades in college, you know how many parents out there get frustrated when you tell your kid, hey, you got to get your grades good so you can play lacrosse in college. Well, then they just don't make that connection, right? They just don't have that contact. Now, growing up in New England, or anybody who's in the Northeast, you can basically turn and take a leak and be peeing on a college campus, right? Of some sort or another. But you get further and further west, and we don't, like in the United States, we still have that focus because we got college sports on TV and things like that. In Canada, we don't really have that at all. And in Europe, it's the same thing. So when kids come from further and further away from those hotbeds, they need that opportunity to develop. And taking this year or 2 years in a community college or a JUCO is a great opportunity. That's an interesting visual. Yeah. It doesn't have to be me who's peeing on the college campus. It could be anybody that you would like it to be. But the idea is that you can you can really help an athlete develop. And then by the time they get to that school, Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, they are a man amongst boys or a woman amongst girls, right? Like, because of my Olympic background, when I finally got to school, I was going to be a 23-year-old freshman at the University of Notre Dame. All right. And now we can't do that to that degree now, but I think you can be like 20. I can't remember what you got to like 1 year out of high school, and then there's some eligibility rules, whatever. But you can join the military and never lose your eligibility. That's something that nobody talks about. So anyway, let's talk about Chris and this video that Paul sent me. So this is really, really cool. And I'll just rewind this a little bit and we'll play it live. So if you follow HCC, Paul, what is it? HCCLax on Instagram. Yeah, HCCLax. They got a good Instagram channel. That's the theme of Rudy. Yes, it is. Totally the theme of Rudy. Exactly. All right. So I'll play this clip through once, and then you guys can just check it out. Let me just rewind here, and you'll see Chris here making some good saves. This is pretty sweet. So I'll just let her rip. Okay, no sound. Sorry. Okay, but nice little leg save there. Nice little stop there. Grabs the rebounds. Nice little soft pocket. Comes up with that real quick. This is we're gonna talk about this one. This is one of my favorites. Off that left thigh, right? Just gets down there. Paul's been listening to me. He's teaching. It's good stuff. This save here, right? Nice little reaction save. Stick on it. Okay. And then there he is. There's the man, the myth, the legend, Chris Peterson of Michigan. It's just a baby. My God, he's like there's a beard. I'm sure there's a full beard under that chin strap, but I doubt it. All right, so let's talk about this. Let's just kind of break this down from a coaching perspective, because there's a lot of stuff here I really, really liked. This first stop, which I shouldn't show it all of it. So I think we'll all agree that Chris is he's a little he's early to his stick side pipe, so he's giving up a lot. He's giving up a lot to that off stick side. All right, but his stance is so. There's some things about the stance that I'm not a fan of. Paul knows that, but overall, Chris has a very athletic look to him, and he's well balanced for the most part. Okay, so when a player, you know, what happens here is goalies always have to remember, and this is always moving, right? This is very hard to coach, but the idea is that um, what the shooter sees and what the stick sees are often two very different looks. And so on this particular play, the shooter sees all sorts of net to that far side, right? So that is so that's a big gaping hole for that shooter wants to shoot at. But when the stick comes around right there, right? If you can see that right there, that angle versus what he is seeing are two very different looks. Okay. So a goalie can take advantage of that. And in this case, lefty shooter sweeping from top left across the top center over to side right. If Chris is a little bit off center here, that's, if he's a little bit early to that stick side pipe, it's okay. It's livable, because from this distance, he's able to get his stick on it. Right. So, and it's not, I'm sure this shooter would have liked to have had a little bit better release. It wasn't exactly where he wanted it, but Chris was able to, because of where he was and because of his movement, he's able to gobble it up. Right. And he does a great job. So just so you guys know, right, coaches tend to focus a lot about stepping to the balls, moving to the ball, moving to the ball. Your stick is going to move first. So there it is, right? The stick moves first, and that's fine. All right. But the body, what he does a great job here by exploding across the face, not to the ball, is he's able to stay in balance and corral that rebound. Okay. Now here, this is kind of interesting because the attackman is on the ground, right? The attackman's on the ground. He's basically shooting. Like, look at this attackman. He's on the ground from his knees, going around one defender. Second slide is coming. Now, Paul, you got to get these long poles to think surgeon, not lumberjack, right? Because the time it takes this second long pole to get a slash here, he misses everything. Okay, just lead with a poke check, skewer this guy, make him a freaking like hog roast, on a skewer. What I'll just point out here from the goalie's perspective is you'll notice how Chris has this like um, forward hand position. I'm not a fan of that just because it takes the balance point of the goalie and brings it forward. Okay. Now, there's been a tendency in goalies over the last, like, I would say 5, 6 years or so, maybe 7 years or so, where goalies are like reaching towards the shooter. It's like I'm ready for you, and they it doesn't matter if this player is like 5 yards off the crease or 15 yards off the crease. It's like goalies are like I'm so ready, and that top hand comes way out. But then if you'll notice, is hinging at the waist, so his center of gravity is out over his knees, out over his toes. Now in this particular case, this player is like falling down, so the shot is going to be limited. But we want to be careful of our goalies starting to stretch too far. We want the shot to come to us, right? We want the shot to come to us. That's really important. Okay. So this attackman is basically shoots around this second defender, does a great job getting a shot off, right? And Chris, if he didn't get this with a stick, probably would have got it with his knee. All right. Probably would have got it with his knee. So I think it went off the throat of his stick right there. Boink. Right. So that's cool. But I love like and Paul, you should be, you should tell this guy, super proud of the activity he's got with his legs, right? You know, and then I think it bounced off his foot there at the bottom, comes on out, right? But one thing here, this position, okay, this like reaching with a stick, um, causes because he's got to bring it in, causes him to kind of lose a little bit of balance here, and he falls down, right? So I don't think we necessarily need to fall backwards here, okay? Uh, but he's got the hip flexibility to get up off of this, which is great. But I think if we took more of an attitude of like a baseball catcher, he'd be in a different position when this shot ended up. This shot here kind of gets blocked, but he great job getting down on it. All right, and like I can't see that rebound. So sorry guys. Um, but he just gets right there. Okay. So we'll do this next one. This next one's the one I want to show you the most. All right. So this is kind of cool because this attackman is going to dodge around his defender and he's a righty. So he's going to bring that stick inside. And now, again, that defender's like super slow with the head of the stick. Just get on the hands, boys. Like, get on the hands. Now, here, because of the closeness of this shot, and like Chris, the goalie's probably a little slow to get his stick there, but he's got his leg there. He's dropping, right? He's happy to get his knees together. He's happy to get his thigh on the ball, right? And he makes that save with his thigh before the stick gets there. Okay. And I think, right, because yeah, it goes right off his thigh. It's kind of hard to see. If you brighten up your monitor, you can see it. It goes right off his knee, right? He makes that save with his knee. Okay, so my only thing here is he makes a lot of leg saves in practice. That's awesome, Paul. Like that's awesome. Okay, like those are the things I'm talking about when we're trying to increase the save percentage because the clips I showed last week of the UVM goalie and even the Duke goalie, they're actually taking their leg out of the way of certain shots. And I believe that the lacrosse goalie of the future will have trained thousands of repetitions to make saves with their legs, right? But they have to be protected enough to do it. Now, Paul, if you took your whole team and said, "Okay, guys, remember that save Chris made, whatever, third quarter, blah blah blah, whatever, inside we're going to practice that. Okay, Chris, we're going to do this without your stick because we want to work on leg saves." And Chris shows up in a pair of sweatpants and just sweatpants. Well, you probably get about 5 reps done until you get him in a really good spot, and then he's gonna hobble out of the cage, right? So we're missing opportunities to train that. Whereas like a hockey goalie or a baseball catcher, things like that, they'd be able to train, or even a soccer goalie would be able to train, hundreds of repetitions in one practice, and then come back the next day and do it again. Okay, so we got to keep that. We got to keep that in mind. But this save, I was pretty pumped about this save. All right. Because this is an awesome. You got to remember too, guys, like from a goalie's perspective, the difference between everybody talks about like, okay, the difference between um Division 1 lacrosse versus Division 2, Division 3, and then, whatever, JUCO, community college. The truth is that good shooters at all levels are pretty damn close, right? A Brendan O'Neill a Brendan O'Neill at Duke. If you take like the best player from Salisbury, you're probably going to get at the same level of performance. So from a goalie's perspective, the level of eliteness is really high. So if you can make saves like this at a community college or a JUCO, and then you want to transfer up once you get your academics straight or whatever, they're going to be like, yeah, that's awesome. And it's kind of crazy because even the top high school kids are good like that too. But coaches, when a goalie like this goes to a community college, the college coaches now go like, oh, okay, he's had a year of college, right? And so they kind of look at it like that. So it's cool. Paul writes, we do use tennis balls for shots as well, even with 3-on-2 and 4-on-3 drills. That's fantastic. That's good. That's really, really good. Yeah, that's really, really good. As long as now, Paul, this is just the only exception to that, because we talk about tennis balls all the time, right? And how important they are for training. But there are times when that goalie in practice with the tennis balls is okay, but then come game day with a real ball, they're not fully committed to stopping that lacrosse ball. And that's where it's, for some advanced goalies, I recommend like, okay, get the lacrosse balls going, because we want you to have that same level of courage in front of that ball that you do in front of the tennis balls. Does that make sense? So that's really, really good. Yeah, because I know you're on top of all the tennis balls. That's really good. Couple more clips here. But this save made me so happy. Okay. This one was just a good reaction save. He's got really good, he comes right across and just gets his stick on it. So that was good. I think there was one more clip here that I really liked. Nope, that's him. Just him and his baby face and he's working on his Movember mustache, even then Movember is like 9 months away. I'm sure he'll be ready by then. So Chris Peterson, congrats, man. Those are some great subs. And these guys lost the game to Army Prep, but there's some really good plays in there. And so kudos to Paul Smith. Congrats for coaching this kid up, because does he have his eyes on someplace else next year or the year after? He's got some good things going. So pretty psyched about that. And he's got a good coach. So that's really, really cool. All right, guys, thanks for watching and thanks for listening wherever you are. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you like this, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. When you're ready, head on over to lacrossegoalieuniversity.com/coaching so I can work with you and your goalie. And while you're at it, check out athletespecific.com to learn more about mental performance and high performance. You may not know this, but I work with athletes in a variety of sports. Lacrosse is my love, but man, I love athletes and the families who support them. So head on over to athletespecific.com, check it out, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.